Hello, I'm Dale Matthews, and this is Inside News. I'm joined by Mike Jones and also Mika Nakudian and also Lori Johansson. Hello, everybody.
Hi there.
Hi there.
Good evening, Dale. It's wind and water tonight.
That it is. Okay, and lots of noise, signifying nothing, as you are used to with our show. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to say we're sorry that the folks from the Illinois Valley Airport, especially the Smokejumpers, could not join us here this evening because there's news from their situation. As you can see, when I first set up this picture, I thought, oh, this angle will be very interesting. Now it's just confusing. But this is a decibel meter. And this is a composite photo. This is a helicopter that was actually flying, the same one that was flying over the Illinois Valley Airport. Oh, that's a long over story, isn't it? It's long gone. No, it's not. So we're actually going to start with that, and then we're going to join with Viken and Lori. We're going to tell us about what happened a few minutes ago at the weekly business session with the Board of County Commissioners. But first we're going to start with a very loud, I'll try to tone down the sound here for you a little bit, a very loud test that was done of a helicopter that kind of flies in the face of what our county politicians are telling us. This is the test. One of the things to notice about this is that, and I'll try to cut back over to this in just a moment. One of the things to notice about this is that the load that this thing is carrying is not the maximum load which was promised that they would do. Now it's hard to see that, but the decibel meter is registering somewhere between 86 and 102. This is dangerous to human hearing, and this is not just some, two tin cans and a string here. This is not our camera work. Okay, Mike and I know a bit about this. Go ahead, Mike.
That's not very loud at all, Dale.
No, but it was way over the allowed limit for humans, and they were there for hours. Sure. Look, a couple of things about this, they're just a little fishy, is they said they were going to do a full load test. This was obviously not a full load test. They said they were going to let us know, that Larry Graves was going to let us know, specifically me, because I asked on camera in the previous meeting, will you please let me know when this is happening? We'll be down here with the camera. He did not do so. He promised to do so. He did not do so. So we weren't there doing our typical award-winning kind of videography. So, that's the best, and that was done with a cell phone, which I think is a pretty good job that they did. And then, they're making lots of noise. Stop making lots of noise, you guys. And so they're necking on the sofa or something. It's been said afterwards that this was kind of bogus test, and the people don't know what they're talking about, and it's pseudoscience that the citizens are saying. Well, here's what the reason I bring this up is because at the board of, just when you thought it was all over, there's not going to be any more recriminations and everything, which is the reason why the smoke jumper guys are not here. They're afraid of retaliation. And they wanted to be here, but they're afraid to do so. Here is why. This is the meeting just yesterday with the Board of County Commissioners in the little back room. And Mike, you can stop this anytime that you like.
I've been a little frustrated, I'll just say it for the record, that in this latest attempt to bring in a legitimate commercial aviation activity, the Smokejumpers were very active in motating against that. And so that puts me in a difficult position. It puts them in a difficult position because in conversations with the FAA, I've been told that when we create an atmosphere of discrimination against legitimate aviation activities, we are in violation of our assurances.
That's a threat. And they know that it is.
Well,
There's this footage with them.
yeah, but I mean, the silly part about this is that the smoke jumpers don't have any authority to stop the Erickson aircrane from coming out there, but they do have the right to speak their mind, and all they did was provide a venue for these other people to come there and speak their mind, and so I don't understand what the issue is. If Erickson Aircrane got scared off by them speaking their mind, that's not the smoke jumpers issue. That's Erickson Aircrane. They're the ones who took the cue. No one in authority told them that they had to leave and couldn't come there. So I just don't understand the issue.
This is why I keep saying that this thing just will not go away, because Larry keeps bringing it up. Larry Graves. He's the guy that calls people bad names occasionally and says F this, F that, F everything. Hey, don't be doing that. Well, he just had a purple fit when this didn't take place, and he went on a media campaign. He's just a department head. He went on a media campaign. He talked with the TV stations. He talked with radio. He went on the newspaper. He said, these people are fools. They don't know what they're talking about. That they could get in a lot of trouble. Maybe we're all going to get sued. And now he's saying that maybe the FAA would take action against the smoke jumpers. What? Because you see, you're on that board out there, and if you don't stick with the politicians, and instead if you go with the population, you're in trouble.
So wait a minute. I would be very interested to see the gymnastics that would have to take place in order to make the smoke jumpers liable for a decision that Erickson Aircrane made. You are not allowed to speak. What would happen if I'm bidding on a job, or let's say I want to rent a location to open up a nightclub? Okay, and some people get together and say something about the nightclub, or say something about what my nightclub would be like and be a problem to the neighborhood, and the people that owned the nightclub space had some sort of a thing where they couldn't discriminate against. How would I, or how would anybody, have a problem or have cause to sue the people who said something for discrimination that the owner of the place did not do? In other words, I mean, this is perhaps a little overcomplicated, but how is it that the FAA is going to hold Larry or Josephine County responsible for something they didn't do? Erickson Aircrane, they decided to leave on their own. There was no pressure from Josephine County. I just don't understand what his point is. I understand he's ticked off because he's getting he's not able to add this to his legacy. But I don't get it.
Well, it's a toothless warning. The FAA is not going to be coming down hard on the smoke jumpers.
Yes, of course.
This is the retaliation
well, they couldn't.
that they all knew was going to happen.
Yeah, they can't. I mean, how do you do that? They're not a party to this at all. They said something. That thing that they said made somebody else make a decision. There's no liability there at all. I don't understand how that's a case.
It's just harassment. It's harassment of people who, as I said, instead of going with the politicians, they went with the population. And you don't do that in Josephine County if you want to keep your position. They warned me. I was on the airport board. And Roy Lindsay and this guy Smith, not the Smiths here, but whatever his name at So Ready, took me aside, Roy Lindsay, and said, if you expect to stay on the airport board, you're going to have to stop criticizing the county commissioners.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to toe the line. And I said, you're talking to the wrong guy. I mean,
well,
really?
Listen, that makes the case. It's a private club. I mean, clearly, that's what's going on here. It's a club, and you have to toe the line. Now, the issue is that these guys down there at the Smokejumpers Museum, they can be damaged by the commissioners. They can be damaged by the airport guy, Larry. What's his name?
Larry Graves.
Larry Graves. Okay, and so I understand him being ticked off is an issue for them because of what he can do to them. I mean, boy, you want to talk about a case you might have. If he somehow damages them and it's discrimination that is unequal or something. I'm bad with analogies here this evening.
Well, okay. Look, I hope that you can see me and hear me. It looks here on my screen as if something has stopped. But the problem with all this is that we can't do anything about it because they are not letting this drop. You would think that at some point these fellows who have come to these decisions would say, I guess we're not going to win this one because you can't win them all. Okay, but they want to win them all, and they're still looking for someone that they can blame for not getting the thing that they wanted. That's it. And so they're still all over.
Dale, Whoa. Hang on just a second because I know you got some vamp to do, but do this. Go up and kill vMix. Exit out.
Really?
And then, yes, your audio will continue, so you can vamp all the way through that, and then load it back up again, and then hit last. Your video will come back and will continue, but we can still hear your voice.
Okay, so Mike, one of the things that they're going to say in this video, which I'm about to show you, is. And I need to lean forward a little bit. One of the things they're going to say is that, gee, I'm looking for last, and I just don't see last.
Amazing.
Oh my gosh!
It's in the upper left-hand corner above your preview.
Okay.
Last.
Sorry, everybody. Just a moment.
It's a big button. Great big button. Huge button. Preset, new, open, save last.
Oh, there it is.
Upper left.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Loading presets, it says.
Now,
okay.
Right. And when it's done doing that, hit external and you're good to go.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry about that, everybody. So the biggest problem is that these people out there are in fear. They're in fear for being able to keep this project going. The commissioners say all the time, "Oh, well, look, this thing with the Smokejumpers is the best economic development program in the whole county," and now they're threatening them because they didn't side with the politicians that wanted to push this forward. Let's hear a little bit more of what Larry Graves has to say to the commissioners here. He brought it up.
Yeah, these are the same people who've used grant assurances to beat the airports department over the head
Really?
in the past, and now they are in violation of their lease because they are actively.
So before you were hired and you two were on the board, when we started this train of the Smokejumpers, it was very clear to them, made very clear, that their activities would not encumber the greater progress. We had adopted, I think in 2011 or 12, the airport's master plan.
Yes.
And it was included, but it was not as an incumbent to everything else that was going on. And we can go back to the minutes, but it was very clearly stated then.
Okay, so I talked with these guys out there, and they said, no, that's not right, which is why we wanted him on the show. That's not right. Simon is joining in, and they said, no, Simon can't be joining in because he's always been on our side. Well, not anymore. So this is what happens in the last few months before the primary. These guys are turning on everybody. They're biting each other, as they did tonight. Mm-hmm. They're biting their friends. They're biting the best friends that they have out there, best friends to the county. They're going after everybody because they're in their death throes. It's like you land a shark on your boat. I don't know why you would do that, but you land a shark on your boat, and as he's dying, he's trying to bite you. That's what's happening here.
Yeah. Did they, I'd be interested to know, did the Smokejumpers sign some contract that says that they would not in any way, any of their actions or any of the actions by people hosted within their building at any given time at a meeting not impede the airport from pursuing clients or something?
They say
they sign this.
They're not even close.
Okay.
They say, no, we never did anything.
Now we're talking about what? What's $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a year or something? What's the value of this contract?
Well, what happened is the Smokejumpers make up for a whole bunch of stuff by doing a lot of work at the airport, and they done all kinds.
No. I was talking about Erickson. What was the?
That was only going to be like about $5,000 a year, a little bit more than $5,000. So what's all this about?
Yeah, this seems inordinate to the impact.
And what's the rule on our show? Everybody ought to know this. We ought to all be able to say this in unison. Whenever it looks and you go, that seems really strange. That's what you should be looking at. Why? What in the world's going on here? And why is this guy still on the warpath, going up against these, bringing this up after all this stuff, still angry about it, and now Simon Hare is joining in. A little bit more.
Okay. You only get to do this if you don't become that encumbrance on anything else in the future at that airport.
That's a threat.
You make up their part of the pie, but that's it. It's not, and I could see, you put that historic house in an area, and then everything else has to conform to that Victorian style or something like that. And I was like, no. That's not what we're doing here. Because you can't do that.
And they've never suggested doing anything like that. See, they're just making stuff up now.
Yeah, I don't understand why. I mean, I can understand where, hey, you guys, what are you doing here? We did you a favor by allowing you to have this situation here, which they can't stop tooting their horn about. I mean, Cheryl Walker brings it up every chance she gets like it was her idea.
Yes.
So I don't quite get what's happening there, but I mean, I do kind of get that, hey, you guys are on the airport here, we're trying to bring this in. They obviously had some bigger thing in mind than the money,
yes.
Because, they're really ticked off about
right that. Right out in front of the Smokejumpers Museum. And there wasn't anybody that was going to come and enjoy themselves at the Smokejumpers Museum when this thing is out there, said to be the loudest helicopter in the world. Not this one, this kind, okay? And so that makes it quite a bit difficult. Now, we're going to get to Viken and Lori in a moment. We will. Just a little bit more for this meeting.
Just can't pick a time in history and say, this is where we're going to lock our... Yeah. So I don't have any problem, and I mentioned that to the people that I was with, that I will come out about this, and should, if that happens. And it did rear its head.
Well, Simon Hare comes out.
That just needs to be reiterated, that it was mentioned 5 years ago. All this really kind of got, because everything was at that same general state of decay about 5 years ago, and since then, through all of everybody's efforts, it resulted in something positive.
No, wait for it. Here comes Cheryl.
The issue being is that there were individuals on that board that were in opposition. They came in to see me. I think they probably came to see you. I heard them out, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You know, you're supposed to be aviators, aviation industry. You earned your living in aviation industry. And so by the board not supporting the aviation industry, it fired up the community. And we have one or two very energized individuals that had misinformation and pseudo experts that were coming in, and then they started harassing the FAA and Erickson and everybody else. They started harassing them, just literally.
Okay, enough out of Cheryl. Okay, so pseudo experts, pseudo numbers of the decibel thing. That's totally false. This helicopter is never very loud. I mean, these are all things that we've heard from Larry Graves and Cheryl Walker as a tag team, taking on the entire audience. The only difference was right at the very end, after Erickson had said no, Larry Graves thought, in fact, he even mentions later in this meeting, well, I should have brought in the people who liked the idea a lot earlier. They all showed up and they clustered into a little corner together, and they were, well, we think it's a great idea. Well, it was too little, too late, because the population there had already spoken.
Right, I saw some video that had been put up on YouTube of some of these practice situations with Erickson down there, and the guy who put up the YouTube video, I talked to him, and he said, "Oh, I love this. There's nothing wrong. I don't have any problem with it." You know, I'm a little torn here because I'm an aviation guy too, and I don't necessarily have a huge problem with this, although. You know, some of the people that lived in the area came in and said they had a big problem with it. Now, are you to hold the smoke jumpers responsible for everything that occurred in the building in which they had a meeting? They had a guy coming in there saying that this was going to cause people to have psychological damage. And you know, all kinds of things like that. Are the smoke jumpers responsible for that just because that particular complaint occurred inside their building? Are they responsible for a call that some kook made to the FAA to you know, get in their face, as some people do when they're you know, going after stuff like this? Sometimes people go overboard. And so are the smoke jumpers responsible for that? I just don't understand. They're perhaps focusing their retaliation in the wrong direction. And, you know, maybe they should have done a little bit better PR for their side.
I don't like the idea of an airports director doing PR and going on the media and calling people idiots, which he did, and calling people stupid, which he did, and saying he's going to spank them, which he did. That's a quote. He's going to spank them. Really? Okay, I don't like any of that stuff. But the big thing is, I think Mike is right, the big thing is, who are you going to retaliate against? Well, you can't. These commissioners can't retaliate against people who are the local citizens, but they can retaliate against someone with whom they have a relationship. And so what they're doing here is they're threatening. You just heard it. They're threatening their lease. They're threatening their relationship with the FAA. They're saying bad things about this Jim in the Crown because they can, and because, look, there's the result. They're not on this show, are they? They're not on the show because they're afraid of retaliation. It's already happening. This is the kind of government we now live under. And it's under them. That's right. It's the right word. And they would do it to us if they could. For example, just a small example is this show. We're 3 years old now. We've got over 300,000 views. And they say we're absolutely zero kind of media, none whatsoever. None. You are not watching anything right now. Well, okay. So there's obviously going to be more to the story. It never ends. They're looking for more retaliation. There are some people that spoke at the weekly business session this evening who were not afraid of retaliation. They were glad to stand up and step forward. And although we couldn't have them here with us tonight, we have Viken and Lori. Hello.
Hey there.
Hi there.
Good to see you guys.
So those brave people couldn't be here, but you are. So tell us a little bit about what you did this evening at the weekly business session, please.
Well, the gist of it is, we had a meeting with Diane Hoover on Monday morning, and we got a
Who is
lot
she?
more information. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, who is she?
Diane
yeah.
Hoover is the county health director,
Mhm.
and she is an advisor to the commissioners, and she has obviously their ear. So if somebody brings an issue to her saying, hey, we have a health crisis, she goes to them and says, hey, we have to act on this, and they say, yeah, we have to act on this. The public's afraid. So we learned a lot more about some issues surrounding the removal of the Fielder Dam, which is down in Jackson County, and the scare about arsenic in our water. This has been an ongoing issue for some time. Arsenic and other toxins, and we learned a lot more about how this a contract had been awarded to do studies, environmental studies, 5 years worth of environmental studies. We got to have studies about this, and it's going to cost the county about $500,000. So we got a lot more detail as to how this all came to be, and I guess we could fill you in a little bit on what we found out. Would you like to give some details there?
Sure. Between the interview with Diane Hoover and also some few documents that have been released, we were able to find out all sorts of very interesting things. We constructed a timeline to find out, getting down to the nitty-gritty exactly what happened. One of the interesting things we found out was that there actually was an Oregon toxicologist, official state toxicologist, who eventually was sent samples and then came back with verbally with a report to Diane Hoover saying there's nothing harmful here at all. The aluminum.
When did he do that, Lori? When did he do that? Before or after the contract was started?
The samples were sent to him November 8th, and he got back to them November 23rd. The contract was put out on the 4th of November. So this was well after the contract had started.
However, this was not the first time that the Fielder Dam situation was examined and determined that there wasn't a threat. This was not the first time. This was the second time that we found. What was the first time?
Well, originally back in November of 2014, Water Watch paid a great deal of money to have a sediment study done, which included comparisons with other dams in the area. And they published this thing and sent it to the Army Corps of Engineers, who then in turn approved it. They had to see that before they could approve the dam removal. So it's quite a thorough and very professional report. I've read it.
So just to be clear,
This flies. Just a second. This flies in the face of what we all saw Eric Shosma say to the commissioners, and Diane Hoover was there, and Cheryl Walker was pressing for this, and all of them said, gee, isn't it too bad that they took out this dam and there wasn't any kind of study and there wasn't any thought at all, no thought, which seemed another one of those times, like we tell you about on this show, when you're going, oh, that seems really strange. Well, this is one of the, well, there's nothing, there was no study. Listen, you can't walk across a stream in Josephine County or in the state of Oregon with rubber boots without filing an environmental impact statement, okay? So the idea is that, this keeps bouncing, Mike. The idea is that I'm going to need to do something about that one of these days. The idea is that according to all these officials, we need to do something because nobody else is doing anything. Nobody cares about the children the way that Diane Hoover and Cheryl Walker do.
Oh, and golly, never mind that the Grants Pass water treatment plant also tested the water and found, no toxic threat. Never mind that. No, the county taxpayers are going to have to fork over about $500,000 for this 5 years worth of environmental studies that, nobody else is doing? What? Come on.
No, really what it was $135,000, sorry, Mike, $135,000 for the first year, times 5 is almost $600,000.
Good golly.
Yeah, that's crazy.
No. In fact, it's almost $700,000. My mistake. $675,000. $675,000 for a false alarm.
I don't think Diane Hoover was even aware of the sediment report when she was basically selling it to the commissioners.
Well, how is it that the Army Corps of Engineers and Water Watch did this big study, and no one else was privy to it, and never became privy to it after
Oh, no.
all of this hullabaloo about what was going on at the dam there when it was being removed. There was a big to-do, and then there was a big to-do on Facebook for what seemed like months after the fact. And why during all that time didn't somebody say, hey, guess what? Here's a study.
Well, there was a lot of demonizing going on directed at Water Watch. Joseph Rice and company were saying that they were the government and they were evil and all this sort of thing. When I was trying to get information from Eric Shaftsma, saying, okay, well, what are the results? I want to take a look at them because I've got a geology background and biology, and I can judge that. And I was hitting a wall, and so I got fed up with that, and I just went ahead and said, well, I'm going to call up Water Watch. And so I called them up, and they were very forthcoming. They provided me that report. I made it available to people at our website.
And to be clear, as we learned from the Facebook conversation, the people who were stirring up this alarm were aware of the Water Watch and Army Corps of Engineers study. They were aware of that. They just weren't passing that information along to Diane Hoover and the commissioners. They had their own interest.
Now, wait a minute. I can understand how somebody like me might not know everything about a dam and removal. Okay, got that. Then you go on to somebody like the commissioners. Okay, they do a lot of different things, and yes, they should be keeping track of everything. And no, it's not a good idea to say, absolutely not, there's never been a study. Don't say that if you don't know that, okay? So they shouldn't have done that. That was a lie. Stop passing on a lie. But you can't blame them for not being scientists, okay? Then you go on to the health director. Now it gets a little serious, because the health director is supposed to know about stuff like this, like water quality and that kind of thing. And the health director should not be saying there's never been any kind of study done. Now it's really a lie, and that this is an unsafe situation, and there's arsenic, then now it's really a lie. Now then you go on to Eric Shaftsma. He makes his whole living about this kind of thing. He has to know that there is a baseline. He said there's no baseline. There's no baseline study even by Grants Pass Water? No, there's none, and no studies have been done, and nothing's been done, and there's arsenic in the water. I remember him saying that. And now you get into a big that's too loud even for this show. So it gets stinkier and stinkier the deeper you go into this arsenic-laced water.
Well, Diane Hoover, she actually has a PhD, but it's not in science. It's in philosophy. And her specialty is administration. She was relying on Eric Shaftsma's words, just thinking that he would be, of course, telling her.
The truth. He's the technical expert who she relied upon to understand the situation, and well, unfortunately, there's sort of a conflict of interest there. The whole situation, isn't there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there is, and but I don't understand. Why would you begin something like this? Knowing that at some point, somewhere down the road, someone might get a hold of the study that was done and go, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense, and ultimately come back and have you liable for, extortion from the county.
Well, there's a pattern here. If one was really afraid of being exposed, one might not go down that path, but think about it. The commissioners were snowed, apparently. Diane Hoover, she didn't quite understand the situation. All those people on Facebook, they didn't quite get what was going on. They were actually really alarmed by all the alarmist things they were seeing, by the manufactured sense of crisis. And people were scared. They were calling, the county commissioner's office, saying, oh, we're afraid of these toxins in water. There was a lot of momentum going there. There were very few people who had the scientific knowledge to look and say, well, that's not actually true, and you're making false statements here. No, there's not a Superfund site upstream from this dam. You're making a lot of false statements. There's only really, I think, maybe two people who are really pushing on that. And, well, how do you get those people to be quiet? Well, you might threaten them. You might start doing things to them to try to shut them up, maybe.
Okay, so how were you threatened? How were you threatened, Viken Nakudian?
Okay, well, there's an ongoing pattern here. For starters, an attempt. I'm going to get into some more ugly details here, but right after the Umpqua school shooting, this is the time that I and a couple other folks were challenging the clearly false statements about all this, this dam situation. So right after the Umpqua school shooting, Joseph Rice, head of our local Oath Keepers, supposedly, sacred honor kind of guys. Anyway, he sends this email to the local law enforcement and to Diane Hoover claiming that I'm a homicidal maniac, and he's worried that I might go off. And gosh, this guy Viken was observed looking at guns at a gun show. You need to do something about this guy. And essentially trying to make them, they're already in a state of fear because, our schools here were at a heightened sense of alert, law enforcement, heightened sense of alert. He played on that to try to get them to act against me. And think about what might have happened if they actually took him seriously. SWAT team comes kicking down the door.
Actually, Diane Hoover did take him seriously. That's something we found out Monday. It was kind of funny, actually, because we had been talking with her for about an hour, and she, with Vic there, and carrying on a good conversation. And then we bring up this question: Did Joseph Rice ever talk to you about, somebody who's a danger to himself and others named Viken Nukudian? And she thought about it, and she said that yes, he had come to her office, and that was the only time that he had been at her office, and that he had in fact warned her about this Viken Nukudian, and because she was a public health official, she was obligated by law to inform somebody else. I forget. I've got the name written down somewhere. And actually passed it on. And for some reason, they didn't end up acting on it. Fortunately.
Now think about the consequences if they had acted. What could have happened to me? Losing my Second Amendment rights. Mr. Pretend, pro Second Amendment guy he is. He is trying to attack my Second Amendment rights. He's trying to attack my personal safety. I mean, if it had gone so far as someone kicking my door down, people die in these sorts of false swatting raids because they know they haven't done anything wrong. Someone's kicking their door down. They try to defend themselves. And it tends to go badly. Mr. Rice.
Mike?
Well, I'm trying to think. Whenever stuff like this happens, I try to put a logic chain together. What is the motivation? Why would somebody want to, put the kibosh on you? Why would he be invested? I understand he was on Facebook. Fighting vigorously for his cause, as many people do. Though, you would have an easier time counting the non-arguments on Facebook than you would the arguments on Facebook. So it's one of these situations where I now have to wonder what was the motivation for him to, to mention you even to a county official, and to speak to the county official and be that invested. You sort of have to wonder about that. And
Mike, tie the two stories together. Joseph Rice, to tie the two stories together, Joseph Rice has been involved with helicopter technology for a long time. So and he has said that the population out in IV is stupid. That they oppose this loud helicopter thing. Okay, he has said that. All right, but I just for the life of me can only speculate about how the head of Oath Keepers and a helicopter technology guy gets involved in having such a very strong opinion. Not just an opinion, but also out there almost every day pressing and pressing and pressing for something having to do with water quality. We're all concerned about it, but what's the deal here? Vic, do you have any clue?
Let's follow the chain of evidence. Let's see. Eric Shasma is the vice chairman of the local Republican Party. Joseph Rice, it was stated at the last commissioners meeting, would like to run for county commissioner. And if he has the Republican Party backing him, the leaders, of course, might tell everyone else, hey, let's back Joseph Rice. Well, that's a big feather in his cap to get himself elected commissioner, where he can, do more interesting things. So there's a connection there. There's a very strong motive to appease certain people with the taxpayers' money, to make them happy. Hey, I can do you a favor.
Well, I think that probably now this is a really good time for complete disclosures that he hasn't.
I'm running against this guy.
Right, and he has not announced yet, but that's essentially what's going on there. So
that's the theory.
Just for the yes.
Yeah, we don't
Well,
really.
no, I mean, it's more than a theory. I think it's going to happen. It's been
Yeah.
the cat is out of the bag on that. I think they're going to be filing any time now. So,
Right.
Dale, you've been bullied a little bit allegedly by Cheryl Walker. She wants you to shut up and stop talking about her. I don't think she's ever gone quite as far as what Rice has tried to do here. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we noticed in the back of the room at one of the previous meetings is that he was having some words with you. That was caught on the county's cameras. I don't turn around and point the camera that I do at everybody everywhere. I mean, I try to concentrate on this, mostly on the citizens who are speaking, and then what the commissioners say during their protected time to then attack the citizens, which is what they do, honestly. But you had a little contretemps with this guy in the back of the room.
Yeah, I was standing a good distance from him. I want nothing to do with the guy, and he comes walking up to me and, puts on his friendly face first, and then he lets out, I'm gonna have to, if you talk, I'm gonna have to take legal action against you. And remember, Mary Emmerich actually got on your show and threatened legal action against the media if they didn't shut up, some time back when we were talking about the Sugar Pine situation. These threats to silence people is kind of an ongoing pattern. He made this threat against me, and I got disgusted with him. I just told him, be quiet, show some respect for the person who's talking, and he just kept going on and on, trying to pressure me. So I just walked away from the guy, and he decided to follow me. He decided a little later to walk up and stand there next to me again. He's trying his intimidation games, and I don't appreciate that. I don't like it when someone tries to do that to me. It's disgusting, really.
Well, I can appreciate the fact that the power of two citizens. You guys saw something that was wrong. It turns out that you were right. You brought it forward, and as strong as the commissioners were in on all this deal, the next morning, because I was there at that next morning meeting, boom, that contract was over, except for a couple of interesting things. And you guys mentioned it. Please talk about the 20 days and talk about the 77. 20 and 77. Tell us what's up with that, please.
You're up.
Okay. In the contract, it says that SHASMA is supposed to turn in, well, let me get the exact words here. On or before the 30th day following each test, basically. Consultant shall submit to the contract administrator an invoice and request for payment, including, this is the interesting part, including information on the work completed, dates that work was performed, and results obtained. As of when we met with Diane Hoover on Monday morning, he had not yet turned over the results. There's a report out there, theoretically a very expensive report that Shannon and Wilson has written, and he has not turned it over yet. Therefore, the 20-day clock has not started yet.
Well, I can tell you for a fact, because I was at the meeting where it was brought up, where the commissioners were talking about this contract, and the finance director said, well, we've already cut the check for $77,000. It was going to go out that day. It was Simon Hare, who's been doubting on this project from the beginning. Give him his propers. He was doubting. He said, well, I don't think that should go out. I haven't seen any report. They had already made up the check.
Wow. And that's what happens when Wally Hicks...
The liaison, sorry. Who is the liaison to the finance department? It's Cheryl Walker.
Oh.
The check is still sitting there. They said at tonight's meeting, well, maybe we should, delay writing the check. They've already written the check. It would have gone out if Simon hadn't said anything. Keith was just going to sit there, and Cheryl already knew it. We're going to talk about Wally Hicks. This is interesting.
Right. So Wally Hicks recused himself from the entire situation because he's a close friend of Eric Shaftsma. So there's a conflict of interest there. And so he's the legal advisor. He's the guy who's supposed to be reading these details to the commissioners to say, hey, the check doesn't go out for, until 20 days, or it's not due until 20 days after the report. We don't have the report. This is what the contract says. He's not there to advise them because of his close relationship with Eric Shaftsma. which is unfortunate because they really need a legal advisor to look at this and help them out with this problem.
Well, supposedly he passed it to a
Well-
subordinate, but how independent is a subordinate going to be who serves at his decision?
Yeah, but you know what? In reality, they don't really need a legal authority. All they have to do is read the contract. There's a timeline in there. You don't have to be a lawyer to understand. Hey, look, it says 20 days after, within 20 days after we receive the report, then we cut the check. That's how it goes. And you know what? If it was your money, that's what you'd be doing. But since it's not your money, we talked about this last night, they don't have any kind of personal connection to the finances at all. It doesn't matter to them. Oh yeah, go ahead, cut the checks, no sweat off of me. Listen, if you're a county official and you want to build a legacy, how about one of responsibility?
Is there any wonder that the taxpayers have not voted for the levies? They see what the money goes to. They say they're scratching their heads, saying, "How the heck does this even happen?"
And
they keep digging.
There's a couple of other problems with the contract too. There's the Section 8 where it says the county is relied upon the professional ability, qualifications, and training of consultants as a material inducement to enter into this contract. So they entered into the contract from in the first place based on representation of the expertise of Eric Shaftsman, which has now been shown that he was saying things that were incorrect by not just the report to the Army Corps of Engineers, but also now the Oregon State toxicologist has said that, when he was making those statements about the dangerous aluminum and the dangerous iron and the arsenic, that he was saying things that weren't true.
He got up at the last weekly business session and referred to at least one of these guys as a shill. As a shill.
I think that meant me.
Hey, you're a shill. For who? Who's paying you to say these things?
Nobody.
Oh, darn. You shelled out your own money to get these extra tests done, and thank you, Mike, for coming with us for one of those to really confirm that there was no toxic threat in the water, just as the Grants Pass water treatment facility determined as well. Hey, this stuff's not there. Why is he saying it is? Come on.
Well, this contract is more toxic than the water ever was.
Yeah.
Mike, do you want to sum this up and tell everybody what your thoughts are? You have a finely honed BS meter.
Well, I would be interested in seeing the report, that was given to the Army Corps of Engineers, and the date and all of that stuff on it. That's certainly relevant. I think a copy of that should be given to the county commissioners if you haven't already. I noticed that you gave them some documents this evening. Stuff of that nature, I think it needs to be done, and so that we can look at this thing realistically. I wonder, did Eric Shaftsman not know that, and he's probably going to want to claim that he didn't know that this report to the Army Corps of Engineers that included sediment tests and things of that nature predated his alleged testing.
But he and Cheryl said they did know. He, Cheryl, and Diane Hoover said they did know. That if they didn't know, they should say, well, we don't know, but here, okay? But instead, the three of them said, we absolutely do know. There's nothing. There's just nothing. And all of us were saying, there's nothing? Really? And they went ahead on this. So that's different than saying that you don't know. And one other thing that I'd like to see is the Nielsen Research, thanks to these two, got involved in this project, and they have some feedback for all of us as well, as, oh, well, they were asked, but they didn't bid. They were given 3 days to bid on something where Eric Shaftsman, as I understand, had like 42 days to pull it together. And the information they were given was so scanty that they just couldn't possibly respond. And so what I'd really like, and we've asked them to come on our show. Oh, yes, we'll be on your show. We're going to be there. And now, well, we don't think it's not because of our show. I think they're afraid of retaliation. Well, yes, it's out there. I mean, there's a reason for this. Do you see a common theme here, everybody? People are afraid of this government. And if you're not part of the inside group, you're not going to get a contract. You're not even going to give a fair chance for a contract. And they'll lie and say, oh, well, everyone was given a fair chance when they weren't given a fair chance.
And
It's
isn't it
coming out.
interesting? Isn't it interesting to see who's in bed together on this? You know, it's not just the commissioners. There's a few other people involved, all in bed together. And yes, there is retaliation in the works. You know.
Yeah.
Want to give it another try, Mike, and saying good night?
Oh, good night.
All right.